YouTube, what's up with it? It's NVclosetmedgrower, your homeboy, Mr. Big Dookie, kicking it. And we're back for your weekly update. There's veg. Whoa! Flower. Experimental tent. And no crazy stories this week. Had a pretty good week. Hope y'all had a good week too. Took care of a lot of business. So, family-wise, had a little bit of family in town. Stayed busy all week. Hope y'all did too. It's always good to stay busy. If time's going fast, you're usually doing something right. Or at least progressing forward in whatever you're doing. So, keep yourself busy. So, let me stop this here, switch over the white balance, and let's get right into it. Alright, so the flower tent. Let's talk about a little bit of changes first. For one, you can see I moved some plants around. You can also see this is the Northern Lights cross with Big Bud. It has stretched up like crazy. It's on day 11. And actually this node back here is getting up above the light line. It's about 2 inches above the light line now. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it because I can't lower it down anymore. I had this one in the back corner, and the problem it's so much higher now is that I've done myself some building. So let's really get into this and see what I got done. I've been talking about building a dripper system. I already had one for veg that I worked on a couple weeks ago. So built one for flower, as you can see here. And I built this one as a manifold system. You can see I got this one little 4-port manifold used for watering landscaping usually. And it runs 10 gallons per hour out each one of those ports. So, and then I got that line running directly up to the plant. And I also have little shut-offs on each one of the lines in between. That way I can cut them off. So right now I only have the 2 running because these 2 plants are in cocoa. These 2 plants are in peat moss, and I don't want them being fed every day. So don't have to worry about that. The other major change, as you can see, my scrog net, I reinforced it with bracing on all 4 sides. Made sure to leave this board a little low so I can still kind of slide plants in there. Try to get over so we can look a little easier. And because I have this dripper system, installed this 4-foot by 4-foot tray. My tent is a 5-foot by 5-foot square area, so fits in there pretty well. I took my scrog net and to the bottom of this tray where the plants are sitting, where that foot is right there on the scrog net, it's exactly 9 inches higher than what it was down there. I got myself a 10-gallon bucket. See, there's a little drain piece going down and doing this thing. I actually have a inline water pump that's on its way that can use 1/2-inch tubing, and it's like 210 gallon per hour. It's not too powerful, but it's an inline water pump. So what I'll use that for is for my reservoirs. I'll be able to pump them right out into another bucket, be able to drain them real easy without having to actually yank these out of the tent. So one thing I wasn't thinking, because I built the tray underneath here when I was building this, is I just centered it and around this tub and put this tub in this very center. But realistically, I probably should have offset this a little bit because the door on my tent, it curves up right there, and I actually can't pull that bucket out too easy unless I really lift up part of this, slide this thing all the way back against the wall, which means I'd have to lift the scrog net up because I have the legs extended down behind it. All 3 of these legs are extended, you know, another 9 inches down. So I've been really busy. I actually did most of this weekend and really put in a lot of work to help automate my setup. So far so good. I haven't gave it a full test yet on exactly how long 15 minutes will go into these and how much runoff there'll be. So hopefully I don't get too much runoff, as long as I'm getting, you know, less than 50% for sure, but I would like it to be around like 10 to 20% is good with cocoa. More like 20% runoff every feeding is about perfect. But if I get it less than 50%, say I pump in 2 gallons of water and it's keeping you know, gallon and a quarter or something along those lines, I'll be happy with that and keep it. If not, then what I'll do is I'll change out that manifold right there for a 6 gallon per hour one, like the one I have over in veg, and that'll probably work all right. Because I have the 6 gallon per hour ones working in veg, working real good on these number 7s with cocoa, but we'll see what they do when they got full plant. So, all right, that was a lot to be said. My throat's a little sore today too, if you guys didn't notice, so bear with me. See, I also got my temperature thing up. It's been a little humid because it's been rainy out here in Vegas lately, which is a little weird. In the last week or so we've had a few rainy days, but temperatures have been nice. Plants are looking beautiful. So let's get right onto the plants. First and foremost, we got our Beyond Dream number 1. This plant just started its flush yesterday, and it's on day 43. Yeah, 43 is where it's at, so looking awesome. Let's take a look at some of these buds. This is one of the quickest flowering phenotypes on any plants I've grown. It's really phenomenal. Like, you can look at it right here at day 43, just over 6 weeks, and it's honestly almost ready to be pulled. In a production setting, grown well, I could easily see this thing being pulled at 7 weeks. I'm going to pull it at 8. Obviously, I just started flushing it. I like to give them a 2-week flush, especially when they're nice and healthy like this. Really let them run down, minimum of 10 days. So, looking real good though. This is the Purple Kush dominant pheno of the Beyond Dreams. So I think the next clone I get from my homeboy, I don't know if he's going to have one of these ready and rooted, but I am definitely coming back and getting this pheno again. This is for sure one of the better keeper phenos in my collection. It finishes really quickly, has an insane amount of smell to it. So much love to North Genetics and everyone that was working with the Beyond Dream, because that is beyond a dream of a plant. So speaking of that, let's look at the other pheno I got. This one takes a full 9 weeks, and it's on day 36. Yeah, it's 7 days behind the other one. So this one's on day 36, and it takes a full 9 weeks, so it's halfway, a little over halfway through. It's got another week until it gets flushed out. See, there's still a lot of white hairs, but the bud formation's getting pretty fat. It's a little beat up from the heat though. It doesn't take the heat as well as this other pheno. And it's also a little more needy on the nutrients. So, but overall, it's fairly healthy grow too. The buds are stacking up really nicely, and should go through as mediocre health by the time I have it finished. I am watching it slowly slide right now, like getting a little bit of burns in there, and a lot of that is this heat stress is just starting to get the best of it. So the very edges of these are starting to burn where it's canoeing. And then there might be a little bit of nutrient deficiency. So cool stuff though, beautiful plant. Like I said, definitely plenty of frost. Let's see if we can actually get right in on it for you. There you go, that's a little better view. It's Beyond Dream number 2. So this will be the last grow I have of that pheno. Bring the camera down here. That'll be the last grow I have of that pheno right there. So after this one, I probably won't bring that one back. It's wonderful. If this was the only bean I popped to this strain, I would love it. I would be really happy with this, because those are super dense, really frosty, potent, decent smell. But after getting this pheno and knowing it's the same strain, and this just has more flavor, finishes quicker with the same size yield, better looking buds, it's just, I said it last update, it's hard to keep that around. So That one's going to get nixed out because I have a much better pheno here. But I'm definitely very happy with both of them. Said that last round too. And I was happy enough to make sure I ran both of them as full-size plants again. And I'm happy I did, so let's move it on from there. We'll talk about this Northern Lights cross with Big Bud. We started to talk about it for a hair minute. See, this thing is growing up out of control. And I did give it a nice aggressive lollipop. It's on day 11, so it may stretch another few inches too. But this thing stretched so freaking much, it's unbelievable. If you look back, when I put this thing in out of veg, it was like down here, just an inch or two above the second rung. And in 11 days, this thing has stretched to, I don't know, the top one there has got to be 18, 20 inches. Like, it's stretched an inch and a half a day. It's just unbelievable. The bud formation is starting to build in nicely. You can see I thinned it out pretty well. I didn't really thin out any fan leaves, but I thinned out enough stalks that were coming up. Like, there was a lot of stalks starting down here that were coming up, but just didn't quite make it to this top rung. So I chopped them out, and it really seemed to thin out the plant perfectly. So I'm getting good light penetration. I'm just not getting enough at the top. Because if we come across here and look, you can see there's a little bit of light bouncing off of the reflector there, but you can't see the actual bulb until you get down into here. So I'm missing a good 2-3 inches of plant that's not getting any direct light. And some of these ones are starting to grow out of that direct light from the bulb also, and I don't like them getting into that range. So all depending. You know, I do have a little bit of extra equipment. I could throw either 150 watt HPS up there, but I really don't want to do that. That would honestly do a really great job of filling out this corner with light, but might be a hair overkill. I'm thinking about just using a big 55 watt CFL. I have some oversized CFLs. There you go. That size CFL pulls 55 watts at the wall, equivalent to like a 200 watt incandescent. But this is 2700K, and these bulbs, I really like the spectrum that the 2700K CFLs puts out when mixed with an HPS. So it'll probably give me some really nice bud formation up there and not be too much wattage. So that's what I might do, is throw one of these with a little aluminum hood sitting somewhere right up in that range. And that should give me just enough light to penetrate down and keep just this corner with enough intensity, along with the HPS light that's bouncing around, you know, secondary light bouncing throughout the tent. So I think that's what I'm going to have to do. I'll see how it goes. Like, if it stops stretching right there, I might just see how it goes. But a lot of times when it stretches past the light, you'll notice the plant will start to get more nitrogen toxicity. So it'll start to get real green in this growth, start to claw out and that type of thing. And if I start seeing that, I'll definitely add this up there. If not, then I probably won't worry about it. But I'm already telling you right now, I'm pretty sure I'm going to need it. So I'll expect to have that in by next week. So we got one more plant to talk about in here. Hiding in the back there is our smoking aces. So give me a second, see if we can pop around the corner. Alright. Put down the light bulb too, you don't need to see me carrying that thing around. But this is our smoking aces, and you can see I put this thing in the scrog net. This thing was massively over vegged, and it's really freaking thick down there. This fan's beating the crap out of it, but I'm not too worried about it. Most all the growth that it's down there beating on is going to get trimmed off. There's quite a few shoots down there that I can pull off if I really wanted to and make clones, but I really don't need them. My homeboy don't need them. I know he has plenty of smoking aces going right now, including a mother plant for us. So definitely it should be a fun grow. This is on day 1 of flower. You know, I just smashed this thing in here yesterday when I pulled out the blue ox. Blue ox I just harvested today actually, so it's been a really long weekend. And you know, you see it, there's a million nodes. This thing is really being that it was over vegged and I really smashed it down and I really kind of pulled the nodes up. I did a good job of really spacing out and pulling these nodes up. You can see for yourself, I've got probably 100, 150 nodes sitting there. So I should end up with a pretty beastly canopy. The other nice thing about with how I modified this scrog, beforehand I had some bracing that would sit underneath the bucket, so that way I could have a little tub it would drain into and I could just drain the tub. So now being that it's sitting right there, the plant sits a little bit lower below that scrog, so got a little bit more room to play. So that kind of helped my height problem with the scrog, you know, solved by installing all this new stuff, and I think it'll do a good job. If that grows too tall, I still might add some more bracing up on the corners of it and just put a trellis net up about a foot above just to help separate out buds. But we'll have to see how tall it gets. If the top colas get, you know, taller than 12 inches, then I'll set something up, you know. Like say if it gets to the 10-inch point and it's only on day 10, you know, and I know it's going to be stretching for another week, then I'll definitely set something up. But if not, you know, kind of tentative. Probably tentative, just like the light bulb over here. So that's what we got going on in flower right now. Let's get one more close up on some nice frostiness. Beyond dream. Out of focus. There we go. Alright, let's move it on towards veg. Alright. See veg coming along pretty well too. Leroy made his way down. This big board was sitting down here on these patio stones, kind of giving me a shelf for this side, but since I'm not using that CFL section, honestly, I probably won't need to anytime soon either. But it's nice to be able to have more veg space than you need as compared to not have it at all. So I'm glad to have the extra room. But I pulled that board up and spaced that up over this drip pan or drip trays I made. Leroy's hanging out down there. These got transplanted into 1 gallon pots. This got transplanted into a number 7 pot. Our autoflower amnesia back there got LST. So a lot going on. We'll talk about this since this is the biggest first. This is our rare dankness blue ox. This one's going in flower next in about 2 weeks. So I'm pretty sure I can get enough growth in the next 2 weeks to have that thing ready to fill up a corner of my tent. It's getting pretty close right now, and in 2 weeks I think it definitely will. I've been super cropping the heck out of it. I actually haven't done my LST like I normally do. I've just been working, you know, really light super crops about every other day, and really beating down these and then letting them pop back up. So I actually haven't super cropped in the last 3 or 4 days, really letting it pop up and be a little healthier. But you see it's pushing out really nicely. And then I just topped it this morning. So this one in 2 weeks I should have double the amount of tops on the top of that canopy. Should work out really good. I do have some of the side branching down here that I don't know if it's ever going to make it to the top, but if need be, it'll make some really nice clones, like some nice beastly thick stalked side branching. Really healthy. This plant would actually be an awesome outdoor plant if I was going to run an outdoor run. With all this side branching, you get so much more light penetration from the sun. You don't have to worry about lollipopping as much. All this would really just bush out in the sun and turn into a monster. Like if I had this plant at the end of May, start of June, to put outside in a greenhouse, it'd be on and cracking. But I don't. That's for indoor use, and most of that's going to be lollipopped off, and most of what you see in the top is going to double up in nodes from my topping and turn into the canopy in 2 weeks. So far so good. It looks like it's well on its way. Alright, let's talk about this in the back here. This is our autoflower amnesia, like I said. I did have a feeding that I came through and I wasn't paying attention, and I top fed a bunch of my plants out of my reservoir, and I didn't pH my reservoir beforehand, so it was a little high. In this one, you see I got twisted leaves on it, but it didn't really seem to affect it. It did that by the next day I had corrected it, and it was acting a little over water for a day, and then since then it's been popping back and being really healthy. So leaves stayed a little twisted, but it's been growing, stretching, been acting healthy. You can see I LST'd it. It's been LST'd for 3 days, I think. 2 days, 3 days. But it did a really great job. This is the main node right here. So it built itself a beautiful little canopy. And if you look back from last week's video, this plant's about doubled in size. Once autoflowers start their stretch, they just take off. So that's what's going on there. And I expect by next week, it'll probably be a little bit bigger again, but should stop its stretch after that. So right now it's on day 32 of life, so just over a month it's been alive, and it's already that big and flowering. So I haven't really seen any frost yet, but you know, last week we were just looking at a few pre-flowers, and now we're already looking at bud sites. That's what you gotta love about the autoflowers. So that's autoflower amnesia doing its thing, and Rhodanthes blue ox doing its thing. And I'll have the harvest video up for that. I already recorded it, but I'll have it up for that in the middle of this week. I'll, you know, kind of space things out, put it up on Tuesday or Wednesday for you guys, and post this one on, you know, Monday like I normally do tomorrow. So back here is our THC bomb. This one also took a little bit of effect from the high humidity. For one thing, the high humidity we've had lately. You see this thing's really widening out. Leaves are widening out. It's a little bit nitrogen toxic, and it also got a little bit of twist leaf on the new growth from that bad pHing. But it's definitely looking a lot better as of recently, and I'm kind of worried this won't be ready in time. I also have been looking at it, and thankfully I believe this is a female. I've seen some faint signs of sex in it, but it's hard to tell. See if you guys can tell for me. This camera does a good zoom. But that sure as hell looks like a calyx to me, but it doesn't have any hairs yet. See that in the center of this screen, that little nub? So yeah, we'll see. Pretty sure, but that's the THC bomb from Bomb Seeds. So, like I said, that twisting wasn't there before. This plant was actually growing really healthy, so hopefully I can get it to be a little happy and continue to grow. It has been continuing to grow, but I'll get it to snap back from that and grow healthy. And hopefully by next week it looks like a nice bush, somewhat similar to that. I don't know if it's going to grow that much, but we can always pray. So to move it on from there, I got the Dreamin' Sours. This one's been having problems for a while. I did top it. You see I topped it right here, and because it had this weird twisty growth on it, it left a really weird topping. But there's a nice growth coming out there, and it looks like it's a little less twisted, starting to grow. This one down here is kind of twisted and goofy and deformed, but I don't know. Hopefully now that it's transplanted, it pops out of its funks too. So it is in cocoa now, and it was properly buffered. You know, the cocoa I've been using is actually pre-buffered anyways, and then I've been buffering it myself with a weakened down mix of my regular synthetic bench mix of nutrients. So, and these are Dreamin' Sour from Sin City Seeds. So this is actually supposed to be a pretty dope strain. I'm looking forward to these. This is supposed to be real high THC, high yield. Should be pretty awesome as long as I get a good pheno. These ones though, no matter what pheno I get, should be pretty dank, because it's cross Dreamin' Sour is a cross of Blue Dream crossed with Sour Jack. Sour Jack was Sour Diesel crossed with Jack Herer. So you got Jack Herer, Sour Diesel, then crossed with Blue Dream, stabilized out into Dreamin' Sour, Sin City Seeds. And that's what we got going on in veg. Leroy's been holding it down. Things look really clean. I did change get rid of that big ring manifold that I made and put in a 6-gallon-per-hour little splitter manifold there, just like the one in flower, but a little bit smaller. And it does seem to do a good job. It's doing a good job on this veg plant, and I've had it running earlier this week on that plant before it went into flower, and it was doing a decent job even with a full set of roots in veg. So pretty happy with it. You know, giving me just about the right amount of runoff every feeding, giving me, I don't know, probably 10% runoff out of each one of these. A little more in these. These ones I have my pressure compensating drippers. Just one dripper on each one of those, and then 2 drippers in the number 2 pot. And I also got this one running from a single line on a splitter. See, you got a splitter down there. So, a little different. Makes it so in veg I can compensate. I can run, well, at any given time I got 3 lines that I can change for either open up to this or run dual-ended and run number 2 pots. And then I got this one line that I have that can run 2 number 1 pots at a time. Or I guess I could just put both those ends in 1 pot and run a number 2. But makes it a little versatile. I can kind of do what I want with the different ends and different configurations, so I'm really happy with it. I'm also happy with this giant CFL light I won at the raffle a couple weeks ago. AAA hydroponic light's really been doing its thing, adding a little spectrum, boosting up this side where it's lacking. I slid my LED over a little bit, like I was saying last week, to push more light onto that plant, and at the same time I installed this to add a little more light on this side. Alright, that's veg. Enough talking about that. Let's move it on over to this way. Here's our feminized Bubba Kush I got from Medically Fit. This is my experimental project. I wanted to take a single plant from seed to harvest under my LED light here and beast it out in our tent. So, and I think I did a pretty good job. I just lollipopped it the other day. It's on day 13 of flower now. And yeah, I got I'd say about 8-inch deep canopy right now, and there's a good chance it's still going to stretch for another couple days, so should be about perfect. Give me a 10 to 12-inch deep canopy, and should fill up to my light perfect, because right now I'd say I'm about 14 inches from the light, so by the time this stops stretching I should be anywhere between 8 to 12 inches, which will be perfect. I get closer than 8 inches, it'll give me some light bleaching. Further than 12, you know, it's not ideal for my canopy growth. But it's doing its thing. See, my light's actually blasting pretty intense in the center, but some of these buds out here are just a little out of the light. But when the tent's all closed up with lighting pushing the side, it's still doing its thing. It's not so bad. And I think my canopy did a pretty good job of filling up the tent. So within a couple more inches of growth, I think I'm about perfect. It's a number 7 pot with cocoa I've been hand feeding. So this plant I've been working a little differently. When it comes to cocoa, you can do things one of 2 ways. You can either treat it with an everyday feeding and treat it more like a peat moss soilless mix, to where you feed every time, or you feed water, except you have no runoff, and you can do a 0 runoff as long as you keep your nutrients all low in that. So I still feed with my low salts, just like I do with my dripper system, to where I run a lower ppm than if I was running my peat moss soils, except I make sure I only feed enough to where I have little to no runoff, and I usually do 2 to 3 feedings, and then I'll do a light watering, and it's seeming to work pretty good. So running except I still have to feed every day. Like, there's no way around it. If I miss a feeding and by the next day all the leaves are droopy, like, cocoa dries out way too quick. It stays aerated, which is healthy for your roots, but you have to feed it every day. So that's what I've been doing with this plant. It's been coming along really healthy. The other plants in cocoa, I've been running the drain to waste in drippers, and that's been coming along really good too. That works a little differently, because as you have that 20% runoff, it constantly cleans the soil of the old salts as it feeds, so you never end up with too high of a salt accumulation. This way you're counting on the plant to feed off of its salt accumulation a little bit, and then if it gets too high, I'll end up having to flush it out. So, just like my soilless mix. But the difference is that I have to feed every day, unlike a peat moss-based soilless where you wait until it goes dry. So that's kind of the difference in running cocoa soilless as compared to peat moss soilless. And that's all my tents. That's what I got going on. And I think I'll take a hash dab with you guys. One second, let me clean up my mess. Alright YouTube, this is what I'm dabbing on. It's a little melted and pressed down bubble hash, 73 micron, Smurfberry and Smokin' Aces mixed. About 2/3 Smurfberry trim, or 2/3 Smokin' Aces trim, 1/3 Smurfberry. Tasty stuff. So, figure I'll take a dab out of my little 10mm mini recycler rig. Alright, let me get things heated up. Alright, if you're smoking with me, let me know what you're smoking on, let me know what you're dabbing on. Always makes the comment section more interesting. You know, this one's for my subs. Love every one of you guys. It's right around 9,500 of you. Approaching on that 10K mark. So, definitely much love to that. And, yeah, make sure you guys check out the rest of the videos on the channel. Look through the playlist, look through some of the other videos. Been doing this a little while now. My channel's been up and running about a year and a half, and I have 300 and some videos on there. So, if you guys ever bored, definitely feel free to go check out my channel and look around. Some interesting content on how I've grown from small closet grow to, you know, room tent grow as I grow now. So, here we go. This one's for you guys. Cheers. Oh yeah. Ah, that tasted good. See a little bit of residue in there. Partial melt hash, still delicious. Smoked up wonderful and got me faded. So, NVclosetmedgrower, Mr. Big Dookie. We're out of here, y'all. Peace.